Hi, Addie. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Amber.
So, everybody, I know Addie, and we met, God, just like a year and a half ago, maybe
I think it's almost 2 years now.
2 years now. Oh my goodness. And um, she attended one of the first times I ran the money mindset workshop. And so I wanted to have her come on and chat with us a little bit and just have her give you her experience with it so that you could see if it's a good fit for you. It's this next money mindset is going to start April 1st. So actually, if you want to join, you have to sign up before that and register. And I've got a couple cool tweaks that I've done that make it a little bit different from Addie, the one that you were in. And did you attend, did you do the second one also, or just the
I
first
did. I
one? Oh
did
my,
back to back.
I
Mhm.
love it. I love it. So I know you had some thoughts already, and then I'll just ask you questions about it. But what was kind of your takeaway from that experience of doing the money mindset?
Well, okay, so a couple things first. I loved being part of it because I'm someone that has always been challenged with maintaining a positive money mindset. I didn't grow up in a family that really practiced good money manifestation. And so there was, things that happened because of that and things that kind of learned behaviors that I've been trying to undo for years to really shift in a different direction. So for me, it was just great in terms of like constantly retuning my thought processes around my relationship with money, and how I view abundance. So I think that in itself was amazing, and something that, I really appreciated. And then the second part for me was just
Wait,
kind of
before,
with,
before you go on to the second part, let me
yeah,
ask you, because certainly you're not alone. Like the whole reason why I wanted to do this workshop was because so many of us have all of these different ways that we were raised to think about money that most of them like don't serve us in a healthy way and a healthy relationship with money. And that's why I really wanted to focus on that for this group, because I thought that it was just going to be so important, especially coming out of what the experience that everybody's had, so much financial uncertainty. And that was part of the reason why I launched the first one, because I thought, holy mackerel, like what would help moms most right now? And that's what came to mind. So I appreciate you sharing that. And, but I think it's not uncommon. Can I ask you to share, like, what was one of the kind of like beliefs that you held about money that you wanted to replace or upgrade?
I think, um, deserving money, like knowing that wealth doesn't necessarily equate to negative attributes necessarily. And while I know that philosophically, I think that I've always been someone that like has a guilt around having money or seeming like, I have more than others. And so just kind of working around that and realizing that, the more abundance that I have, the more impact I can have in the world. So shifting that lens as opposed to like, oh, somehow just having a lot of wealth makes me elite, or I'm no longer compassionate, or I'm like separating from the haves and the have-nots. So I think that it was looking at it as it can be a powerful force in the world if you use it in the right way. So that was part of it. And then I think a lot of it is the confidence, right? Like I might have had some of those negative beliefs because I also didn't fundamentally believe that I deserve to earn my worth.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's such a big one for people. And it's so funny, like all of these stories that we tell ourselves about money. And in the mindset workshop, it's the beginning. Maybe you could describe for people. I mean, you don't have to go into detail, but just like, we kind of talk about it. I kind of put a bunch of ideas out there, and then we do this exercise that if you sign up, we'll do it all together. And it's really cool. But so many of the mistaken beliefs that we have about money are really common. A lot of people have, like the one you said, like, well, if I have this, then I feel guilty, because somehow the story we tell ourselves is that like if you have more, then that somehow means there's less available for
Right.
others.
Yeah, I'm taking something away from someone else when that's not necessarily the case. Like, money is circulating, it's flowing in lots of different capacities, and there's ways that we can be creative, and have ingenuity and always be generating more. And so, in some ways, you can almost look at it as infinite. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of what you choose to tap into. So that I think was great. And then, the biggest thing for me was the accountability,
Mm.
because as a coach and as someone who does a lot of work in mindset and wellness, there are a lot of things that I know are important for us to do every single day, but that doesn't mean that I do them all, right? Like, I kind of have my niche of things, but like for me, stepping into the money mindset challenge was stepping into something that I know is important and that I want to work on for my own personal growth. But just like most of us, I get busy in my day. And if I don't carve out the time, it just doesn't happen. So this was great because it gave me structure and it gave me a check in, and, it gave me that accountability because I knew that every day you were going to be putting out information, and people were going to be sharing ideas. And so I was super motivated, and it also kept me focused. It kept me visualizing and thinking about it every single day. So that was for me. Those are the kind of things that I need, that reinforcement and someone else holding me accountable.
That's awesome. I just partnered with this other group that makes the accountability part even kind of more personalized and more fun. So that's going to be
Mhm.
part of this next one. I'm really excited about it. So, what made you sign up for the second round?
So I decided to go back to back because I realized, well, one, I had some great results from the first one.
Oh yeah, let's
Um,
talk. I
So,
forgot.
so what was interesting is that my husband and I actually did this together. And the timing was really great because we were still kind of early into some of the pandemic shutdown. And so we were all home. And so it gave us an opportunity to really reflect and spend some time on this together. And I think that was really nice because we'd actually never done something like this together. So that was really great. And so, we each did the practices independently. We didn't actually even share our list with each other, but I think just the idea that we were focused on it, I was looking at mine every day and carrying it around. He was carrying his around, like he took it everywhere with him. So that was really great. And I think that experience together also motivated me to want to keep going and not just create that sense of manifesting something simultaneously, but also, um, knowing that, like, just being curious to see, like, if I keep focusing on this, what kind of impact is it going to have in my personal goals and my business. So those were the main reasons where, and again, it goes back to that structure. Like, I just do really well when I have accountability. So I love that we're talking about this today because it also makes me realize that, like, once I did those challenges, I continued some things, but there's some that I didn't. So, like, it would make sense for me to do it again, right? And like keep coming back to these programs because I think we all benefit from continuous work and doing these kind of things.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I did it, just for those of you listening, I did it the second time because the results that everybody got from the first round were so shocking to me. Like I knew I've researched money mindset, I've read a ton of books, I've done workshops, I've done my own personal journey with all this content for years, for 25 years. But it's not my wheelhouse. You know what I mean? Like I do self-care stuff and emotional stuff. So it's not something I lead with generally, but I saw it affecting moms. And so that's why I was like, well, I know a bunch about this that I think might be helpful. So why don't I throw it together? But because it wasn't like I don't tout myself as like a money expert by any means, but I could not believe the results that everybody had. And so then we tweaked it and we ran it again. We, me, whatever, everybody. And a lot of people came back that were in the first round, which was so wonderful. But we work on two things, and then we worked on like mindset, but we also worked on kind of letting go of how. And that's one of the things I think that's beautiful about this type of workshop is sometimes the money comes in ways that you do not expect. And that was what was so amazingly powerful, because it was only 3 weeks between the beginning and then when we had that final meeting. And I think I shared this in another video, but you know, the out of the 10 people in that first one, there was an average of $4,500 per person of unexpected money gains during those 3 weeks. And you were one of the big ones, because you had some surprise stuff that you didn't expect. Like, you don't have to say the amount, but if you'll share with us like what the situation was, I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, so there were a couple things that kind of came, you know, things that were sort of been in the works for a long time, but like one was like a small investment that we had made and we really didn't have a time frame for recouping it. And then all of a sudden during the money mindset challenge, like all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, we're issuing the check for this. And we're like, oh, that's amazing. Like we weren't counting on that. So it was little things like that. And then, I think we got one of I don't know, there was like a check from the initial pandemic.
Oh, the stimulus.
The stimulus, thank you. I was like, what was it called? The stimulus. So things like that. There were just like some things that were like, oh wow, this was awesome. Like we weren't really expecting that. And then yeah, and then I think as we evaluated, like you were saying, some of it wasn't in like a strictly dollar sense. Some of it was new referrals, some new customers for this nutrition company that I affiliate with, things like that, where like things were just kind of evolving simply because I was putting energy out there, not necessarily because I was soliciting anything, which that is the best way for me and the way I prefer to, gain any kind of monetary reward. So that I think felt really, really great.
That's awesome. My kids are in music practice in the other room, and I can hear the bass line for Eye of the Tiger right now. And it's like the perfect, dun, 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 dun for what we're talking about.
I love that. Oh my God, that's amazing. I can't even hear it. That's great.
It's subtle. It's subtle back here, but
Subtle.
I could hear it. It's so funny. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to everybody about your experience. Is there anything else that you would recommend to the moms out there who are like on the fence about it, or like a lot of people right now is like, oh, this sounds really good, but like maybe later, maybe another time? Is there any reason you would give for people to do it? Like, go ahead and just do it now. It's not super time consuming. I guess that's one thing to mention.
It's not time consuming. And I just think that we all can benefit from money manifestation. It helps us in so many aspects of our life. And to do it in a community is really powerful. I think one of the awesome things for me was, hearing the examples of other people. At one point, I even refined my money manifestation list. And then when I did it the second time, it made me really think about doing it differently, like setting my goals way higher, really expanding my thinking. So I think that, sometimes we limit ourselves too when we don't even know the sky is the limit. And you hear what other people are putting out there and what they're getting back. And you're like, oh, I gotta step it up. I gotta go even bigger. And I feel like even just all of the examples that you've given from things over the years, I love your museum example when you guys were traveling as a family, like things like that. So I think that those were the things that they reframed my thinking. So it's not just about attracting money. It's about like reframing and how we approach all of this. And doing it with an awesome community. That collective energy alone can be really super powerful in terms of manifestation. So
And
I yeah, Go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to say what she's talking about, and I do talk about this in the workshop, but it's that when we were traveling, um, before we left on the tour, and for those of you who don't know, it was like 16 months of traveling with all six of us across like 57 different cities or something like that. And before we had left, I had a membership at the Bay Area Discovery Museum, and that museum happens to have one of these reciprocal relationships with like children's museums and science centers all over the country. And so everywhere we went, every town almost had either a science center or children's museum or both. And so we would use that reciprocal membership to get in. Now, six people going to a museum once or twice or more a week, because some cities, like when we were in Philly, you used to live in Philly, right? Did you used to live in Philly or DC?
DC.
Philly had some amazing museums, and they went like every single day we were at the museum. So I added up all of the costs as if what it would have cost us to pay out of pocket for 6 tickets, an average of once a week for these 16 months. And it was something like $4,700. And if I had tried to like manifest $4,700 so we could go to museums, that's a lot of work for something that didn't have to take place. Instead, I paid $200 for one museum that had a reciprocal membership. So sometimes value and worth and resources come into your life, not in the way you expect it, in way easier, simpler, more fluid ways. And that's what this type of money mindset course does for you. It opens you up like kind of universally to those types of opportunities. And problems get solved, things come to you, resources come in ways you can't see now. You can't possibly see all the ways, right?
Right. Yeah. No, that's why I love that example. And you had some other ones that were really great, and I'm sure that you include them in your workshop. Even just things from before that time that you were traveling, and it was hearing those examples, and then being in the group where other people were, sharing, the things that were happening. That I was like, wow, this is amazing, and it gives you this deeper level of belief. So I think all of that just adds up to be really, really powerful and worthwhile.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you did both of those workshops, um, and you should come to the next one. I'm going to
Yeah,
open up the registration soon here. Actually, it'll probably be open by the time that this airs. So thank you so much for coming on and talking about your experience doing the money mindset workshop. I appreciate it.
you're welcome. Thanks for having
All
me.
right.